Hi Aquarius, and welcome to your November 2021 general reading. And oh my gosh, it feels like February. So thank you for everyone who supported the channel, making donations, but also your comments. I just love having the relationship with you. Yeah, and just thank you everyone. So I did pull two Lenormands, really unusual Lenormands for Aquarius actually. So the first thing we get is the dice and then the looking glass. So the dice talks about risk. So maybe taking a chance on something that might be a little bit risky. You might be facing a crossroads. You might be facing some sort of decision, okay? And the looking glass is next to it. So when the looking glass is next to it, maybe don't jump into anything, because the looking glass is almost saying to you, if there's a decision, if you're making some big choice, bring the looking glass into it. So I'm not getting anything weird. I mean, we'll find out with the rest of the cards. I'm not saying there's anything dodgy happening here, but there might be a call to don't take risks, don't jump into anything. Just really focus on the details, because sometimes it's just not the right time to act, you know. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. We'll find out with the rest of the reading, but there might be something showing up for you, Aquarius, and probably you're not going to be 100% sure about it. And that's what the looking glass is saying. We will find out when the rest of the cards appear. So sometimes it's a time to act, and other times it's a time to reflect and pull back. Some of us get really wound up about that, but essentially, Aquarius, when it's time to act, we know it's time to act. I mean, unless we've got ourselves caught in our fight or flight system. When we know, we know. And when we don't, we don't. There's this idea of us being flawed or bad or whatever just has to be eliminated. We know when it's the right time. So sometimes the dice can be a bit intuition, but not getting clear messages. Anyhow, so I'm just guessing. We'll find out a little bit more. Sorry, my throat. We're going to pull 3, 4, 5, 7 cards. I'm still trying to keep the readings in 15-20 minutes because just because, guys, okay, it's how I can manage everything at the moment. So what is it you desire? So you desire the sun. Yes, the sun. Illumination, freedom. And because it's Aquarius, it's always going to be a sense of freedom of expression, freedom to be who you are, because that's what our sun rules. It rules individuation, becoming the unique version of who you are. That's the reason we incarnate. The gift is a judgment. The judgment talks about something maybe coming back from the dead, because it works with the death card. So it tends to talk about regeneration, and maybe that's what the dice is about. It's like, is this real? Is this trustworthy? The challenge is the Knight of Swords. So be careful of communication. The Knight of Swords in my other decks, he has got the head of a dove and he's cut it off with his words, okay? Mars is in Scorpio, and when I have Mars in Scorpio natally, but we have to be careful not to, you know, the Scorpio sting. Be the ego, have the higher vision, be the adult. Yeah, Five of Wands in your relationships. I wonder if that's what it's about. The Five of Wands is a card of evolution. Actually, it's a card that I tend to really, really like because it means there's a push towards a change. And I wonder if that's what this is about. Money and work, you get the Ten of Swords. I will clarify it. Don't worry. I quite like the Ten of Swords. The Ten of Swords is only a negative if, say we've got an addiction we haven't dealt with. Then the Ten of Swords can be a card that comes in and really, that's it. You have to deal with it. If not, I tend to read the Ten of Swords is, it can be about reaching a rock bottom. So you have to make a change. And is that a negative? That's what I mean. Everything's perception. Knight of Wands at a soul level. So it's a little bit of defensiveness going on. And then you get the Three of Swords, but the Chariot. Okay, so there's a lot going on this month, by the way. This is going to be interesting, keeping this within... And you're my first reading. The heart of the matter is a Nine of Wands. The Nine of Wands is a card of boundaries. So it can be a bit defensiveness. Depends how you look at it. I mean, boundaries are about, these are my values, and that's it. This is how we have a life of meaning, Aquarius, is to live our life according to our values. And I'm not saying we go about judging everyone as right and wrong, but if we have a set of values and people come about just abusing these values, then we have to have boundaries around it. Okay, that's what the Nine of Wands is saying, and it is the heart of the matter. Now what you want is your beautiful sun. You want this to feel this freedom, to feel joy. It's also a card of illuminating that which has been hidden, the moon card. So having clarity, being illuminated, and it's a card of joy. And the Judgment card is the gift. So this is probably something coming back, like some sort of resurrection, potentially. Could be a relationship from the past. It could be something that you've almost given up on, and then suddenly it sort of comes back round again. Again, it's one of the major arcanas that I particularly really, really like. What's it clarified with? The King of Wands, okay? Could be a person, could be a relationship, could be a bit passion, because the King of Wands is looking at the Sun card. Some of you might be dealing with Leo. Leo rules the heart. This could be about some sort of passionate attraction. Wouldn't that be wonderful? But because of the major arcanas and because of the Lenormands, there might be some risk involved in this. So if it's something from the past, you've had your hands burnt before and you're like, I'm not going back there. You know, it's something like that. The challenge is a Knight of Swords. So because it's a challenge, I need to read it in its detriment. And in its detriment, the Knight of Swords can be very, very wounding with its words. Cutting. Mars is in Scorpio. Mars is our drive. Why is the Knight of Swords? I think this is probably going to be about communication. It might be about a relationship. It might be about something. There's something that's risky, Aquarius, here. And I think the risk might be about you've had to set some boundaries with someone. And it's like, how do I make it work? How do I make something work in a way that my self-esteem, that I don't get violated? A very strong word, but you understand what I mean. And the only way we can do that is to have our values crystal clear. Because say say your value is, I mean, you're an Aquarius, so one of your values might be equality, and someone acts in a way that is exploitative. There's no middle ground there, and that is the way that we create a life where we're not in that hell zone. Yeah, we all know the hell zone. Be careful of your communication, because the Five of Wands is in your relationship house. So the Five of Wands is, I don't get the Five of Wands as an outer conflict. I get it as an inner tension. It's like something needs to change with the Five of Wands. It's a card of evolution. And quite often, the evolution isn't moving fast enough. So it's felt more as tension. It might be your head and heart going in separate directions because there's a relationship and it feels a little bit... It's not as this for real, it's something else. What's the words? And it's not even... Has this got... Is this got... Oh, it's almost like... Give me the word, give me the word. Is this worth my compassion? Clarified with the Queen of Cups. Is this, if this is a relationship, is it really changing? Is it really evolving? It's going to be a tension, guys. I can feel it. Now, money and work, I will clarify it. So you get the Ten of Swords, but then you get the Ace and the Page of Pentacles. That's really, really interesting. So the pages always represent a new chapter, something evolving. I tend to love the pages because I think as an Aquarius, we love adventure, don't we? We love new beginnings. We love the possibilities of things. So this is these two aces, but the first card was the Ten of Swords. The Ten of Swords is, people always class the Ten of Swords as a negative card. If we've been living negatively, any card is negative. Do you understand what I mean? But say this is the ending of a job, and this job has been destroying our joy. Is that a negative? It's more a negative if we feel our survival's attached to it. When to me the Ten of Swords is how I read it, I mean, unless you've got an issue and you're being floored by it, that's the Ten of Swords. I'd be very, very doubt if you'd be looking at my channel, guys. I'm not a drama tarot reader. Is the card before the Ten of Swords is a 9, so it's living in fear and anxiety, yeah? So the 10 is, it's almost like, I want to say like the death of the small self. I want to say the death of the ego, but I hate terminology like that. We've all got a part of us that lives small. Every single one of us Aquarius have it. And the Ten of Swords, how I tend to read it, is the ending of one chapter so a new one can begin. And look at this. Not only is the Ace here, you're building it, you're defining it, you're bringing it into definition and shape. So, yeah. So that's how I read the Ten of Swords, especially if it's clarified with an Ace or a Fool. It's the ending of something that's been maybe toxic. Yeah. And so say this shows up in a relationship spread and the relationship's been abusive, then isn't that Ten of Swords a gift? But I think this is maybe the end of living in a state of contraction because you want the sun. And our sun is not about living in a state of contraction. It's breaking free from Capricorn. Yeah. And it's like no more. And that begins. How beautiful. 9 of Wands at a soul level. I think this is to do with relationship dynamics, guys, by the way. Some of you might be having a relationship And I'm sort of smiling because probably some people are watching who I read for. Maybe your needs aren't being met. Maybe your values aren't being adhered to. And what you've been doing, I think you've been asked to have a look at this, by the way. And most of us, you know, to live by our values can be really scary because we automatically feel we're going to lose the person. But really, really all we lose is someone who doesn't connect with us. Why is the Nine of Wands here at a soul level? Okay, it is an emotional issue because we get the King of Cups. This is beautiful because look at this King of Cups. He's a bit emotional. I call it emotional sobriety. And I know it's a really strange terminology, but you know when we lose our emotional balance and we're in a push-pull, the King of Cups is the King of Peace. And I mean, that's what it is. It's the King of Peace. And when we define who we are, and I don't like the word demand. I don't mind the word command because that's more, you know, we hold an energetic resonance and we expect to be met at that resonance. And we can't change anyone outside of us. But if we stick with our value systems, our emotional value systems, our integrity, then the person will either change, and they will change, or they'll leave our life. There's only one or the other. Interestingly, because you do get the Three of Swords, so don't worry about it. So that's still a feeling of being a little bit separate. But then you get the Chariot, which is moving your life forward. Tell me what the Chariot's clarified with, because Aquarius has got an interesting month. I'm an Aquarius. So the Chariot is moving your life forward. It's a vehicle. The conscious and the unconscious mind have set their own direction. There's unconscious and conscious conflict going on in the relationship dynamic. It might be you and the other person have got opposing principles. So there's a little bit of it's not warfare, it's angst and tension. And quite often what happens is we're frightened of facing our fears and putting our boundaries down. And our boundaries are just the limits of how we're willing to be treated. And the Chariot is my conscious and my unconscious mind are moving the same direction. I've set my direction and I'm moving in it. And then when you do that, it leads to the Ten of Cups. Because you know what, Aquarius? I am so far off a rainbow and unicorn reader. I'm really, really not. I'm a counsellor. I deal with stuff all the time. But there is a natural law. If we face our deepest fears, you know, Room 101, our deepest fears, our life changes. Does it take time? Yeah. Does it take time for the people around us to suddenly go, oh my gosh, the ground has been shifted from under my feet? Absolutely, it takes time. Do we move an inch? No, but not in a way that's not compassionate, but in a way it's like, these are my limits and I will not, it's like, you know, there's people that are like vampires and they just keep taking, but they don't give. So mutuality might be the value. The person either changes eventually. It doesn't happen overnight. They leave our lives. I don't see anyone leaving your life. I see the opposite, in fact. Because the Ten of Cups is a rainbow after the storm. And And sometimes we need to stand our ground, we need to be in our power, we need to be in our emotional, authentic identity. And I almost want to swear, I almost want to say, and that's it. And face our fear. You're facing your fear around your finances. It might be the whole month that you're facing your fears. I'm really, really not laughing, guys, honestly. I get exactly what's going on here. But unless we let that small sense of being, you know, keeping ourselves hidden, and that's what the Ten of Swords is. And again, if it's negative and you're stuck in a job you hate and suddenly I've just got to get out of here, it might end up that way for some of you. But, you know, Aquarius, is that a negative when you've got two aces showing up? Because it looks like you've been led onto a new direction. My advice for you is watch your words, stick with your boundaries, but with great love and great compassion. We cannot mess with other people's values. Our values are who we are. That's it. Anyhow, Aquarius, links to my website are below if you want a personal reading, and links to the PayPal button if you can. But you know, guys, honestly, I love your comments. I think that means equal to me. Yeah, I really, really value them. And lots of love. Bye.